Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. We are a minute away from go time. We're going to give people a few minutes to log in and get settled into the session.
Hi, everybody. Super excited to talk to you all today. And Deanna's absolutely right. We know, there's going to be a lot of people that are still trying to figure out audio and all those other things. I know Deanna's really big on us starting on time, but we'll definitely give a minute or two just to make sure everyone has an opportunity to file in, overcome any of those technical issues that they might have in order for us to continue forward. Carrie, I just saw you hop on board. It's good to see you, Carrie.
And I'd like to say a reminder for the Q&A. If you have any questions throughout this session, please use the Q&A option down below. We will be saving some time to answer as many of those questions as we can. We're also going to be putting out some poll questions throughout the session to get some learnings and get a better understanding of why you attended and what you'd like to hear more of. But that being said, it's 1:01. I'd like to get this session started today. So I'd like to welcome everyone here to this webinar panel discussion on cybersecurity, AI, and the Internet of Things. I'm Deanna. I'm the moderator for today's session. I'm joined by three experts in the field of cybersecurity and IoT. They're going to share their insights and experiences with us. Chuck, Cohen, and Mark. I'll have them introduce themselves shortly. So the purpose of this panel discussion today is to help you as small and medium-sized business leaders raise awareness of the cybersecurity challenges that you face in the context of the latest IoT trends and AI technologies that are impacting businesses like yours. We will explore some of the common vulnerabilities, risks, and opportunities that you should consider and address to secure your business and stay ahead of the curve. So the structure of our panel discussion, we will start with some strategic questions around SMB security. We'll move on to some other benefits and understanding questions around IoT in SMBs, and then we'll wrap up with some practical and action-oriented questions around AI and cybersecurity solutions. We will have some time for Q&A at the end of the session, so please submit your questions in the chat feature on Zoom. As your moderator, my role is to help facilitate the discussion, keep us on topic and on time, and make sure you get the most value out of this session. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce our panelists who collectively bring over a century of experience to you all. Chuck, Cohen, and Mark. Sounds great when I say it that way, doesn't it? So I'd like to give you each 30 seconds to tell us a little bit about yourselves, your background, and what inspired you to pursue this field. If Chuck, you want to kick us off here?
Sure, thank you. I'm Chuck Brown, CEO of Infinity in Savannah, Georgia. I've been in the IT field for over 40 years. What inspired me? Honestly, the first time I walked into a lab in college and saw the computers there and the things that we could do, the things that we could control from that, I never wanted to do anything else since then. So I've been doing this ever since.
And Cohen.
Sure. My name is Cohen Barnes. I run Sundog out of Northern Illinois here. And you know what inspired me? I'm a multi-generational military guy. And you know, when it really came down to service, it's what I know. It's core and fundamental to me. And technology, if you can imagine, 30 plus years ago, it was at the beginning stages of it. It was really the infancy of our industry and what turned out to be the technological revolution. And I was absolutely fascinated by it. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to figure out how to have others appreciate technology, adopt technology in order for personal gain, but also to have their organizations really be able to move forward and operate at the highest level possible.
Wonderful. And Mark.
Hi, my name is Mark Essayian, and I am CEO of KME Systems. We're a managed service provider in Southern California. The primary reason for me getting involved in technology was to allow people to avoid the drudgery of doing some of their day-to-day tasks, that you could automate things. You could actually let people be more productive and be more creative while they're doing it. And when you start to show people this is how you can use a piece of software or a piece of hardware, et cetera, and then the light goes on and they go, wow, I can really do a lot more. We jokingly call that time machine work, where I give you back more time back in your day, and I just enjoy seeing that happen and enabling people.
Wonderful. Thank you all for that introduction. Now let's get into it. So leaders of small and medium-sized businesses often have multiple roles. They handle multiple numerous challenges on a daily basis to ensure company functions and operate properly. The general perception of keeping a business secure involves actions like locking up, activating alarms, using dual authentication apps, and shutting down workstations. Chuck, in your dealings with prospective clients, what overlooked vulnerability do you believe is the most underestimated in businesses today?
The most overlooked vulnerability is the end user, and I think everybody knows this, but it's not really given enough credit. Most things that are bad that come into your network come in because someone made a mistake. And we really don't pour into our users enough the way they're aware of what's going on. And it's a combination of things. We need training. We need for your employees to feel secure in asking questions and not worrying that somebody's going to make fun of them for not knowing everything. We need the team to know that if they've made a mistake, they're free to talk to someone. All these things go around opening up communications about security. And it's a constant thing. It's not like you can have someone read a pamphlet or read a book and they know everything they need to know. It's something we need to all be constantly reinforcing with our staff. You know, what current vulnerabilities are, what to be watching out for, how to behave on the internet. So for us, we feel like that's probably the number one vulnerability that just isn't given enough credit.
Wonderful. And Cohen, why do you think it's important that businesses should prioritize security in 2024?
Yeah, so the landscape keeps evolving, and there are so many organizations out there that you could be a law firm and you're focused on billable hours for your clients. You could be an architectural firm and it's the same thing, right? You could be a manufacturer and you're ultimately focused on, I'm trying to produce these particular widgets. But what the small to medium business community needs to really understand is that threat landscape that's out there, the ability for someone to come and essentially compromise your network. It's not just about the dollars, it's also just about the downtime, the impact ultimately to your organization when some program, and I think we're going to talk about that a little later, it's not someone that's targeting you, right? It's a program, especially with artificial intelligence these days, that is discovered a vulnerability, has reported to a human being on, hey, here's what this looks like, and the human being will choose to get involved or not involved. What we have found, and I think Mark and Chuck would testify to that, is it's rampant out there. There are compromises happening regularly. In fact, I think the Better Business Bureau even produced, it's the number one impact to small and medium-sized businesses in the United States right now is cybersecurity attacks. So having that like business security plan, thinking about these things, if you want to just do what you do, which you are highly specialized in, and I know you bring great value, whatever industry that you're ultimately in, to bury your head in the sand on cybersecurity and the threats that are out there is the one thing you cannot do. You need to start asking your IT service provider, hey, can you break down what measures, and we call it layered security, but what layered security you have in place in order to protect us as an organization, in order to make sure that we can continue doing what we do and we don't have to focus on this. That's why you're outsourcing your IT service. But the importance of focusing on that these days. Every single solitary year, it's getting worse, quite frankly. And with the introduction of artificial intelligence, now it's not even humans having to spend a lot of time, it's programs that are spending a lot of time. So this is going to get more intense as we go along. So it's actually a really good time. I'm really glad we're putting on this webinar right now, because it's a really good time for all you business leaders out there to start raising your hand with whoever's in charge of your IT and asking these questions. And you're going to know, I have a feeling, based off of the answers that you get, where your comfort level stands. And then you'll figure out a decision that you need to make past that. But ultimately, having some sort of business security plan, focusing on this, if you want to continue operating and delivering the service or producing the product that you make, now more than ever is the time to start asking those questions for those that you're entrusting with the security of your business.
Thank you. Mark, do you have anything you'd like to add to that about prioritizing in 2024? Anything that you've seen?
Yeah, I think so. One of the questions that we ask is, are you sure your network is protected? And then we follow up with, why are you sure? Many executives on the call today, it's their job to do risk avoidance, risk mitigation. And I appreciate you joining the call and certainly want to give you some valuable information, because everybody hears security, security. But what does that really mean? It means that you are paying attention to the risks that are being posed and pushed against your company. So I would always encourage you to talk to your MSP, talk to your internal people, and say, I think we may have some vulnerabilities. I attended a webinar, and people might roll their eyes and go, "Oh, well, you attended another webinar." But take it seriously. Ask the questions, and then ask them to examine the answers, because it's your business that's literally on the line. And as MSPs, we want to help protect you and make sure that you can prevent an attack.
Wonderful. Thank you all. So as we move into like a better understanding and what the benefits are for IoT, the Internet of Things, and how it relates to small, medium-sized businesses, can we dive into an explanation of what the Internet of Things is? So we all have a better understanding, and we can have a discussion around the connection between personal and business IoT devices within the workplace. Cohen, do you want to take a first stab at answering what IoT is?
Yeah, so it's a broad topic, but at its core, IoT is the Internet of Things. And what that really means is a device that connects to the internet. So, okay, sure. I mean, my computer's connected to the internet. My laptop's connected to the internet. I totally get it, Cohen. So what's the big deal with that? But what we're finding, those of us that are in the industry right now that support and secure the networks that you have, essentially to make sure that you're protected so you can create your widget or bill your hours or whatever it is, you realize the Internet of Things is becoming a incredibly growing concern, because how many of you have thought about the Honeywell thermostat that you have that's controlling your HVAC system in your office? Right? It's connected to the internet. You got this really cool app. It's awesome to be able to program schedules, things like that. How many of you have thought about the camera system that you have that is reporting up to another company somewhere that ultimately allows you to have that app, and from home you can view your security cameras, or your security team can. The Internet of Things is all these devices that you're ultimately going to plug in that connect to the internet to essentially enhance your business or enhance your personal life. But what we all have to realize is those are all open windows or open doors from a security perspective. If you imagine your house, right? You've got your front door locked at night, your windows are shut, they're locked, your alarm system's on. Every one of those devices that get plugged in, that barcode scanner that the shipping department's starting to use, right? All those that get plugged in and report to the internet, who are they reporting to? And what is the security associated with that particular company, where what if they got compromised and ultimately they're able to come in through your camera, through your thermostat, through those things? And what we find over and over again, I think Chuck and Mark would testify to, a lot of the times when those devices get put into a network, no one thinks about changing the username and password of them. It's just the default. And I think Chuck and Mark would agree with me. We've been in so many networks where we're trying to figure out how to get into a device. We Google default password for X device, and sure enough, that's what's still implemented in those. So the Internet of Things, it is really important that all of us, and that's the IT provider that you have, and that's also those of you that are in leadership positions within your organization, are cognizant of all the technology that's coming in and getting plugged in. May seem amazing, and it's going to be a great way to connect, and it's going to enhance a particular piece of productivity. But I implore you to think about the cybersecurity element of it and make sure you're talking to your IT provider on how are we securing these IoT devices. And Mark and Chuck, I'd encourage you to expand on that if need be.
I think, Cohen, the big deal about it is people install it and then they forget about it.
Yeah,
It's running, it's operational, and the installer said, "Oh, look, here's Wi-Fi, and it could be connected, directly to the corporate network," which is not necessarily the best idea. So it's examine what is connected to your network and how is it being used and how is it being monitored and managed. Otherwise, you're going to have an issue with it.
This is one of those areas too where it becomes really important to have good corporate policies. We have been to clients where the policy is if someone wants to go buy an XYZ adapter at Walmart and hook it to the network, they're allowed to do that. That's extraordinarily dangerous, not just because you don't know where that device came from, but because you don't know the way it was set up either. It may be sending data. This is one of the reasons, for example, why it's really important to have a separate guest Wi-Fi. You let an outside vendor come in. You have no idea how their machine is configured, what security policies are in place. You give them access to your Wi-Fi, and now they're on your network if you don't have a separate partitioned off VLAN for that. But that's true for anything. I mean, refrigerators, light bulbs are all connected to the internet now. These things can be plugged in, put on your network, and you're never even aware that they're there. So you need technology to make sure you're guarding your network, but you also simply need policies so your employees know what standards are set for them.
Great conversation. So let's take a step deeper into that thread. Most people don't believe that personal devices affect business security, but with more people working in remote roles, using public Wi-Fi at the Starbucks coffee shop down the street, and a lot of people use Google accounts for universal access. So can we talk a little bit about some instances where the Internet of Things, personal devices have compromised small or medium-sized businesses? Have you guys heard or seen anything in the news recently?
I mean, I think we all, and this is not recent, but it goes a little bit further back. We all remember, and I'm going to oversimplify this so we don't spend an hour on technically how something actually happened. But the breach that Target had a long time ago. This is probably 5 years ago, maybe more. And they got credit card numbers, username, they got everything. They had the keys to the city, the hackers that actually compromised the Target network. What people have to realize is, they went after Target because it's a big name, right? And they realized all the walls and all the security set up. There was no way they were going to get in. And so they got creative. And what they got creative on was, who are the vendors that work with this particular organization? And they found an HVAC vendor, ultimately, that they were able to compromise. And then what that did is, because Target had, all their facilities monitored and managed by this particular company from an air conditioning and a heating standpoint, that allowed the hackers to be able to go from this entity over here into the internal Target network. And then that opened up the rest of the network, which included all the point of sale systems at every Target store, across the United States and the world. It's those things. And what I fear really quick is some of you are out there, well, we're not Target. No one's going to come after us. And what's really important about this example is, especially in today's environment with artificial intelligence, again, it's not a human being that's going to come after your 25 user network. It's going to be a program that's going to come after you. And then it's going to raise its hand and talk to the human. Mark?
Yeah, I think if I were a manufacturer, I'd be scared to death because that's what people are going after because they have so many data collection devices, so many programmable logic controllers, et cetera, that are critical to the business. But the bad guys, the thieves, I don't call them hackers, I call them criminals, understand that. And they will go after those devices because they typically get installed, as you said, in a generic manner. And they're like, great, I have the ability now to go after hundreds of companies and see what data that I can gather and lay in wait. And can I go after the IT network if I'm in the OT, operational technology network? So it's a critical thing to say, what am I doing? If I'm going to beat the drum here endlessly about what's happening in my operational technology network. And you may think, well, I don't have one of those. You might, as we mentioned before, thermostats, alarm systems, et cetera, are not technically part of your IT. And we want to make sure that those are protected because if they're not, and the passwords aren't changed and you're not, updating the firmware of some of those devices, you are a prime attack candidate because it's easy. Nation states probably not coming after the people on this call unless you're doing work, with the high level DoD work, et cetera. But that doesn't mean people don't want to come after you and take your money because it can be easy pickings. When somebody actually takes the time to say, oh, well, they've got this device on the network. I'm now in. What else can I see?
Chuck, do you have any examples or that you would like to share with us?
You're muted, Chuck.
Yeah.
Actually, the timer just went off, so we're moving on to the next question.
Oh.
So let's take a deeper dive now into AI productivity apps that are out on the market. AI technology is increasingly accessible to everyone today, thanks to the growth of free, publicly available platforms. As more individuals use AI for personal and professional tasks, there are concerns rising around its potential misuse against individuals and businesses alike. Recent case study in the media highlighted AI vishing. That's becoming an issue in more and more instances. For those that are unfamiliar with AI vishing, it involves the use of AI to record and duplicate voices to infiltrate personal and commercial accounts. So Mark, besides AI vishing, could you provide an example of an AI-related attack that has a tangible consequence on small or medium-sized businesses?
Yeah, I'm going to go with something that people may not be aware of, and you're welcome to Google this. Just type in finance worker pays out $25 million. They were deep faked with video phishing. They literally thought they were talking to their CFO live. Now, imagine that. The criminals had software that simulated the face, the voice, everything, and convinced this worker to transfer $25 million. It happened a couple of months ago. It's a good story. I won't go into it, but that's crazy. So why do I bring it up? You're like, well, Mark, it was a bigger company. It was multinational. Every tool that gets used against an enterprise filters down and gets used against SMB. We see it all the time.
Yeah.
And so I want do you have a process in place that money cannot be transferred without somebody actually knowing who they're speaking to? I mean, it's that simple logic that you put in place that people go, well, it's my boss. And goes back to the gift card scam. Maybe Cohen's trying to get $500 out of me from an Apple gift card. I just landed, it's happened to our company where my guys walk in with their cell phone and somebody is texting them appearing to be me. Hey, I need $2,500 worth of gift cards sent, and people have fun with that, but that aside, Do you have some processes in place? Just simple things. Hey, Deanna, you're telling me, or Chuck is telling me to wire money. Deanna's going to go, no. Unless I speak to him live, I don't care if he's on a plane or on a boat or on the moon, I'm not letting that money go through. And you need to set these things in place beforehand, because I've had customers call me, hey, Mark, I want to pay your invoice, but I can't get to the link. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't get to the link? And it's because somebody said them something that was wrong and it wasn't working right. Hackers make mistakes too, criminals do. So you got to pay attention to these things. They may seem like they're science fiction movie or spy movie, and you're like, oh, well, that's not going to ever apply to me. It will. It may take 6 to 12 months, but it's going to move down. The technology is going to be cheaper and more effective, because that's a promise of AI, is to give you back time and to make things easier and to give you more content. It's being used against.
A couple of really important points to go along with what Mark just said. One is that everything that starts out enterprise pushes down. Things that are more human and require more human and smarter people, sooner or later are taken over by software and hardware, and they're pushed down so that they're available to the common thug who wants to do these types of things. And we're going to have to be paying more and more attention to our social SOPs, because we're getting to the point to where video can be faked, voices can be faked. So you talking to your boss on the phone isn't really enough. For today, it probably is. It's getting to where it's not. We're going to have, again, social policies that say you have to have code words, or you have to have certain knowledges or certain other ways to identify who you're speaking with, because the sound of a voice alone really isn't enough anymore.
Yeah, agreed. And just playing off of everything that's been said, that human element, right? Especially when it comes to financial transactions, you have to figure out a connection. If you're a remote workforce and everyone is operating that way in teams, and we've got the issue of potentially a deep fake there, Chuck is absolutely right on code words. If you're in an office environment, it's wonderful if, you know what, I'm actually going to get up, I'm going to walk across the plant floor, and I'm going to talk to someone and confirm this is what's happening. Because that social engineering piece, I think Mark commented on, ultimately is what they're doing is they're preying upon our human nature. And our human nature is, I just got hired and my boss is telling me I need to do something immediately because they are too busy too. And it triggers just that emotional response of, I want to please the boss, essentially. And what we do then is that's when some of the greatest compromises, ultimately happen out there. I do want to make one other comment too about that whole idea of whatever happens at the enterprise. So we talked about that $25 million compromise. Eventually, it's going to come down to the SMB space. Why that is so important now is because of artificial intelligence. Because in the past, we called it whaling. So there's phishing, where you try and hook a bunch of just whoever people, you send out an email of 10,000. There was a thing called whaling, which they specifically targeted a CFO or a CFO, and what that person would do. And this would be a human that would go on LinkedIn, see the organizational structure of a particular organization, find out who it was, figure out signatures, find out personal information about people because their Facebook was public and all that. Now imagine a hacker sitting there, a criminal, thanks Mark on that, but a criminal sitting there telling AI, hey, I want to look at manufacturers in Illinois, and I want to create an email that is drafted from the CEO of those organizations to the CFO. And what I want to do is X, Y, Z. And the artificial intelligence is going to go out there, collect all that LinkedIn data, right? All that personal information, all that information that hacker needs in order for it to create that perfect email, phrased a perfect way based off of the personalities that it learned from those people and their public profiles, and is going to draft an email that's going to get sent out. And it's going to be very difficult for the tools that we have in place to be able to detect those, but also that person on the other end is going to see that and thinks, that's Bob. Bob is telling me exactly this, and I'm going to do exactly what Bob says. And that's the scary part of artificial intelligence right now, is it's really taking that enterprise level techniques and having a computer actually create it to the SMB space, and they can mass produce that across manufacturers, lawyers, architects in any state or nationwide that they want. Mark.
I was just going to say, this doesn't need to be complex. If Deanna Deanna and I work together, we can say, look, if I need to wire money, our secret word is going to be the name of my cat. Now, that's not secure. I know some of you were laughing, but it's a simple thing that if I text her, if I'm a criminal and I'm texting her and I need you to do this, all she's got to do is say, great, what's the code word? Yeah. If I don't respond with the name of the cat, she knows right away. So it's inexpensive, simple, a logic block to make these types of things happen.
Absolutely.
Great conversation. Thank you, guys. Can we talk a little bit about the free AI productivity tools that we're seeing out on the market right now? Should businesses be concerned? I know a lot of teams have different ways or reasons for using these. What are your thoughts on those free AI productivity tools being used in the workspace?
Yeah, I'll start. I think they're amazing, right? Artificial intelligence truly is going to change the way we all operate, 100%. And they can be powerful and they can be incredibly effective in productivity and all those things. But what we all have to realize is there's no regulation on artificial intelligence at this point. So can you imagine if you're a software developer, and this is actually a real situation with Samsung, where one of their programmers was trying to figure out how to resolve a vulnerability in their code. And the engineer actually used artificial intelligence to help him design a patch for it. Awesome. But what they didn't think about is all the information they put into the artificial intelligence is now part of its brain, its knowledge base. So then all what you have to do is, if you're a hacker trying to figure out how to compromise a Samsung phone, you have artificial intelligence help you design the software that you need in order to take advantage of that compromise. So where I'm going with this is, you have to remember the information that you put in is information that now expanded its knowledge base. It could be, benign, doesn't matter for your organization, or it could be something that, you just released. You had AI help you come up with a presentation to your staff on the payroll benefits that you're migrating to. But what you actually gave it access to was payroll and all those other things, right? You just got to realize the information you put in stays in. So until we have true regulation, and even then, we all should have our guard up. We have to realize that artificial intelligence is great, but keep it generic. I want to create a presentation for, I want to create a speech for, but you limit how much detail you're actually giving it, because again, all what you're doing is adding to its memory and its database of knowledge. Mark.
I want to recommend people on the call just take into account your people are using AI, whether you know it or not, whether you approve it or not, whether you like it or not. They're going to use these tools in order to make their job easier. If they feel that they're providing better content to the organization, I say, that genie is out. So I would strongly consider, or ask you to consider, fostering an AI inclusive culture. Put down some action steps about what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. As Cohen said, you want to make sure that you're asking the right questions of your system, knowing that these large language models are remembering these things. You want to be careful. Look at what you're doing, examine some of these tools, ask your staff if they're using them, and then share what is working. You want that productivity increase. You want that ability to create a presentation. It's kind of neat. When I first saw it, with Microsoft, was it 100% accurate like this PowerPoint presentation? No, but I think human beings have a much better ability to edit than they do to create. So let it create something. We're a big Microsoft shop, so I will tell you we're doing a lot with Copilot. But it warns you. It says some of the AI content may not be accurate. So you still have to do your work, but it's a good way to say, look, I've now got 15 slides about a question that I asked. I'm going to go in and edit these slides and make them be accurate, rather than I need to develop 15 slides. I mean, it's a pretty good way of doing it. There are some simple ways to formalize your AI skill development amongst all your people. Don't kid yourself. every generation is using it. It's not just, the younger people in your organization, but develop these action steps. And maybe instead of using the free tools, actually invest in some of the tools that give you much greater controls.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, Deanna, a quick thing on what Mark just said, which is brilliant. When he mentioned Microsoft 365's Copilot, right? You have to realize this is something that you can subscribe to, and it is powerful. It is incredibly awesome when it comes to productivity enhancements, things like that. But Copilot is going to reach into your Microsoft tenant. It's going to reach into your OneDrive. It's going to reach into your SharePoint, and it's going to use that knowledge base that it has in order to produce what you want. But do you know if your intellectual property is completely locked down? Do you know if your payroll is completely locked down? Do you know if all those employee reviews are inaccessible by the person that's running Copilot, right? And that's where, when we start going down this AI path, I highly recommend everyone engage with your IT department, engage with your IT service provider, have these conversations first before you start adopting it to make sure that the information that's critical to you stays confidential. Chuck?
To piggyback on top of what these guys just said, I mean, as Mark said, the genie's out of the bottle. Sticking your head in the sand and saying it's not going to be used is not viable. It's not going to work. The important thing is to have the conversations that Cohen mentioned, to educate yourself, talk to your IT provider, and come up with standards and procedures for your employees to follow. They don't want to do what you don't want them to do. They want to do their jobs easier. So if you give them a framework to do that in, you're going to find this is a lot more successful path than just simply trying to say we're not going to use it.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. So I know we heard a lot of really great tips about AI and how to kind of start that process, that we know people are using it. And we've barely scratched the surface when it comes to some strategies for maintaining business security, managing IoT devices. But if you could share like one super important piece of insight or a starting point for an SMB owner or leader to put them on the right path, like where would you recommend they start? Any tips there? Mark?
Yeah, I'm going to say you want to start with if you're bringing technology onto your network, asking the service provider that is doing it, what are the security implications of what you're bringing into my network? How are you protecting me? Ask the question. Because a lot of people go, great, I'm getting new thermostats, or great, I'm getting a new alarm system, or great, we're installing some new controls on our manufacturing systems. Any solid provider should address this with you. But if they don't, it doesn't make them bad. It just means that they're not paying attention to this, which we can have that conversation separately. But just ask that question. That is your job if you're buying this technology, of saying, what are the risks inherent in bringing this on board, and how are you mitigating those risks to protect my company? That at least starts the conversation. And if you've got IT people, ask for their advice. If you have security people, ask for their advice primarily, right? Because IT people are not necessarily security people and vice versa. But ask those questions and be aware of what the answer is. And if you don't understand it, trust me, you belong to a peer group. You've got other people that you know. Ask the question. Say, hey, what do you know about ABC? You'll be much better off. A little bit of education goes a long way.
I would actually start from the other direction. Assume that at some point your company is going to have a security incident, or at least a scare of a security incident. Have something in writing that says, what do we do? Talk to your attorney, talk to your IT provider, talk to your insurance company. It doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be extensive, but at least start somewhere. When something happens, what do I do? Because the last thing you want to do is try to figure that out when you're in the throes of a battle. I mean, you don't want to have something happen and then start having to scratch for names and phone numbers and processes. Just write something down as to what our steps are.
For me, real quick, I agree with everything that's been said. It's also, we talked about asking questions of your current IT provider. Ask those questions about cybersecurity. Ask those questions about IoT. Ask those questions about AI. Ask all those questions and get that knowledge. But then what I would highly recommend is then ask another IT provider. Because no matter what, and even my own clients, I would say this too, right? This is your business, your plant, your department. You are responsible for the production of hours or widgets or whatever it is. To just, I think Chuck said it earlier about burying your head in the sand on a particular topic. This topic is going to be personal. It's going to hit every one of us, right? So what we're trying to implore is we're trying to make everyone as educated as possible on this. And one of the ways you can do that is, besides attending a webinar like this, is it's talk to your IT provider and talk to another one. And you're going to, in that conversation, because you're all wicked smart people, you're gonna have a feeling of, I feel comfortable here or I don't. And if you're on the I don't, you really need to take the next steps then and figure out how you're going to secure the realm that you're ultimately in charge of.
Deanna, let me add just one thought. What Chuck and Cohen are talking about in the IT world or security world is an incident response plan. How I do it will be pretty close to what Chuck is doing. We're pretty close to what Cohen is doing because we think alike and we, share information. But you want to talk about internally, what do we do if? You don't want your CEO in front of the local news describing what happened in your security event because he or she doesn't know how to say that correctly, and you end up in a world of hurt. Who's our PR person? Who is able to declare an emergency, right? And then activate insurance and attorneys and things like that. It's a tabletop exercise that even if you spend a couple of hours, if this happens, who do we call? And do you have that printed out somewhere? Because if somebody comes after you and your internet is down or you can't get to, your Microsoft site because it's been compromised through no fault of Microsoft's, don't get me wrong. Where is this printed out that somebody has access to and can say, yeah, I can do that? These are simple things that can be done easily. Put some thought into it. At least you have a starting plan. Maybe, who do you talk to in your insurance? Do you talk to your attorney first? Do you talk to the CEO of the company first? Get this documented, train your people to save a lot of hassle in the beginning.
Excellent. I love that plan. I wanted to send out a reminder to the attendees. If you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A section. We do have a few that came in that I think would be beneficial for this group to answer live. So the first question is around AI. So with AI and in general, do you see companies that are or used to be BYOD, bring your own device oriented, going away from that because that heightens the cybersecurity risk? Mark.
Yeah, I hate BYOD. I actually call it bring your own disaster. We have some clients that use it, but it is a problem because the end user doesn't want me to put their security tools. I get it. I'm invasive. I am protecting, our customers. And I mean, that's my job. And again, it's invasive. And people are like, well, this is my private machine. Or are you collecting my data? Are you watching me while I do my banking? I also understand the cost element that if we've got 50 salespeople out in the field and they were using BYOD, now you got to spend $500 on some device times 50 times the management of that device. I understand it, but the simplest way, in my opinion, to protect yourself is to have corporate controlled devices with proper security and proper training for the human being to prevent the issue in the first place. I'm against it. That's why my joke is bring your own disaster.
I mean, I would wholeheartedly agree. If someone's going to be BYOD, then they need our security tools installed, period. End of story. In our world, we talk about conditional access. We need to make sure that the device connecting to your data, your tools, your organization, right, has some sort of protections and some sort of monitoring, a layer of security that you can feel comfortable allowing it in. Otherwise, it's no different than just opening your front door to the public and telling anyone who wants to, come in with your laptop, fire it up, hop on our network. We're open here. Go ahead and do that. And what you're going to find is you're going to have over time devices that are connecting to your network that are compromised and spread some sort of vulnerability that's going to impact your ability to be productive in your organization. It will completely happen. So BYOD, if you're going to continue implementing it, great, but have a policy that if you want to do this, then here are the things that are going to have to be installed on your machine, period. That would be my recommendation.
Great answers. All right, so let's move on to the second question that came in. If the majority of our business systems are SaaS cloud and we're currently using MFA for all systems, what level of exposure do we have in terms of IoT items on our Wi-Fi network, employees' personal devices, etc.?
You know, I bet Mark is really going to be able to talk intelligently on this, but I'll just chime in really quick. If you think about it, right? Yeah, it's all SaaS. It's great. MFA, by the way, MFA is blocking and tackling, right? It's foundational. You have to have MFA if you're connecting to a device these days, or a software as a service, you name it. I mean, that you have to have, period, end of story. And there's some organizations, and some of you are out there right now, that still don't believe it's going to be impactful, or you believe it's impactful to your users. They don't want to do it. MFA has to be on every single solitary software that you connect to. Done. But now, between man in the middle, between MFA fatigue, those are getting bypassed. So MFA, and it's not particularly pertinent to this question, but I just wanted to call it out. You cannot rely on MFA now anymore as, okay, I am secure. You got to get that out of your head. Layered security model. But ultimately, when you think about all those IoT devices that are out there, and if everything's hosted in the cloud, you should be okay. Yeah, but what if that IoT device gets compromised and someone's able to put a keystroke logger on your staff's computers? That's a real easy thing for a criminal to be able to do. And all they do is just software just sitting there on that computer waiting for, oh, there's an email address. Chances are, if someone's typing in an email address, there's probably a password that's going to be next. And now they got the password. And now, especially if MFA is not available, but now they at least have the first door that's going to be open to them to your software that's available out there. So everything we're talking about, it doesn't matter if all your IT is hosted in the cloud. This all applies to the security that you have to have in your organization and the layers of security that you have to have. Because even if you were right, whoever asked that question, 6 months from now, you're going to be wrong, because they already figured out how to get around it. And that's what we've seen in our industry for the last 30, 40 years is it's constantly changing. The criminals are adapting to the layers of security that are out there. Mark.
Yeah, cat and mouse game. My compliments. If you're primarily SaaS and cloud and got MFA deployed on everything, we have
Awesome.
Some of our customers are complaining about MFA fatigue. Why do I have to use it every day? Why do I have to use it 2 or 3 times a day? You know, we're very worried about people just punching yes when they shouldn't when they should say no, for lack of better words. So you're ahead of the game. But like what Cohen said is absolutely accurate. You're ahead of the game today. I would encourage you to keep that mindset and say, what's happening? Talk to your security folks and make sure that you're adopting the new technology and process as it happens. So do you need to worry about your Wi-Fi network and your employees' personal devices? Yeah, I let employees bring what they want, and I have a separate network connection and a separate firewall. And here you go, connect your iPhone to it and have fun, because we don't want non-controlled devices connected to our network for any reason at any time. Trust them. I'm never going to trust them. And the simple way of saying, look, I'll give you internet. I'm not giving you my corporate internet.
Thank you. Great answers there. The next question is around voice recognition. So the question is, should we avoid voice recognition security practices?
There's a lot to that question. I'm not sure how to answer it. I think we kind of covered that earlier, where, you know, if you're going to authorize a check payment because on the other end of the phone, whoever told you to do that, again, it may not be as prevalent now, but it's coming, where they're going to have all of our voices just, you know, in a database that someone can purchase on the dark web. That can't be enough. So I don't know if that was the question, Mark or Chuck. I don't know if you're interpreting it differently.
I think this goes back, I mean, everything we talk about with our clients is about layered. And that's
Yeah.
true whether it's physical, whether it's video, whether it's voice. You know, you need to start thinking in terms of how many roadblocks can we put up. Right now, you're right. Chances are your voice is not going to be compromised today. Could it happen? Sure. Is it probably going to happen? Probably not. But there will come a time in this technology curve when what Cohen said is commonplace. Your voice will not be unique any longer. I mean, it's something that can be purchased. It can be hacked. Someone can have a phone. You know, a salesperson can call you on the phone, record your voice, take a snippet of that, pop it into an AI tool, and generate any conversation they want to
Yeah.
have. So this can be done today. It's just not prevalent. So if I were taking the trouble now to craft policies, I would craft policies that are going to hold me into the future, and those policies would be a layered approach.
Great. The next question is on MFA. So this person says we have MFA in our environment, but we are starting to configure SSO on apps. What are your thoughts on SSO with O365?
Go for it.
And Mark.
Do it. We like it. But don't do it without conditional access. Don't do it without, used to be called Azure Active Directory P2. I think it's now Entra something. Forgive me, guys, I don't know the exact name. But this is the ability for you to say, this is a known IP address. This is a known country that we're doing business from. Don't rely on it completely. There are some very, very strong tools that will protect you from Microsoft. If I got the name wrong, forgive me. I just go back a little ways with it. It was called Azure Active Directory P2. Now it's Entra something. Forgive me, guys. But do it. It works. We do it ourselves, but we're very particular about if we're going to travel to another location, it will tell us this is an issue. And it also looks at an anomalous issue. So hackers are smart, criminals are smart. They may do a VPN and make it appear as though they're coming from Irvine, California. But this anomalous of, well, maybe they shared that information. All of a sudden, there was a login attempt from New York, from Singapore, and Dallas. There's a problem. That is now reported to my security operations center, and they're probably going to shut my login off and call my cell phone and say, hey, Mark, you're not in 3 locations. What's going on? We need to change your password, et cetera. So yes, use it. But there's some great additional tools to make that even more powerful.
Yeah, I think we hear it all the time where someone implemented, and we'll just continue using MFA as the example of, all right, all my users, they're on MFA. I'm good. What we're really trying to communicate here is you're not. It literally is layers. And this is going to be totally self-serving when I say it, but the days of you have that one IT guy, right? Or whoever has been taking care of your network, they're gone. I would highly encourage all of you on this call to engage with, in our world, we're called managed service providers, but an IT firm. And that's where it's important, firm. Because if I had to guess, Chuck and Mark, we send our people to conferences, training. We are constantly being aware and have our finger on the pulse of what's going on there from a cybersecurity standpoint. And we're making sure our people are highly informed and trained on that, because what we're charged to deliver is, I want to engage Sundog or Infinity or KME, and I want to go make my widgets. I need you to make sure that I'm not impacted by all the other stuff going on out there. And the only way you're going to find that kind of security is through an IT provider. And the reason being is the layered securities and the constant adaptation to the threat landscape that continues to change.
Great. The next question is around developing and creating policies for a work environment. The question is specific around, is there a right amount of pages that a policy should be to be considered good? How detailed should it be? How would somebody start this process if they don't have a policy in place?
Go for it, Mark.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I'm not a lawyer. It's illegal for me to give you legal advice, and this is legal advice. That being said, I'm not giving you legal advice. You want it to be succinct. I can't tell you the number of pages, but you want your people to be able to understand it, that you want them to do this. You don't want them to do that. But by all means, if it's going into your employee handbook, this is something that you must have your legal counsel or your PEO, if you've got a professional employment organization, have them give you the policies. Keep them short and understandable, but sometimes you just have to be detailed. And don't shy away from that, because this is all about protecting the corporation and protecting your staff. Oh, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do that. It allows them to say, oh, gee, I now understand what the corporation's trying to protect itself from.
The other thing to think about is, I mean, we want to put everything in there that might be encountered. So our tendency is to make it much longer than it should be. One problem with that, though, is the security landscape, and therefore your policy landscape, is an evolving thing. You have a 300-page manual that covers every detail, you're never going to keep it updated. So succinct is really important. It's an interesting question, because it has to be detailed enough so people know what to do, but it can't have so much detail that it's just going to become archaic. It's going to quickly be outdated. Nobody's going to keep it current.
Great response. Another question that had come through from someone is there a way to see all devices that are currently on my network?
Yes.
That
You're right. I think ultimately your IT provider should be able to, there's a variety of tools out there that will scan and see the MAC address and then query the database of MAC addresses to tell you, hey, it's probably a 3Com, or hey, it's probably a Ubiquity device that this thing is. So that is definitely available to you at any time through your IT provider.
Okay. And last question, I think we can get this one in. So do you have any best practices around security as organizations build out internal LLM or learning language model databases, or integrating a third-party LLM?
I'm going to say, yeah, we could talk about that, but I'm going to say it's outside the scope of this conversation, because it's pretty darn detailed. We got to look at APIs. We got to look at what injection is going to happen. What is it doing with your data, et cetera? I love the question. Yeah, some of the best practices are, use known good providers, right? Ask them what they're doing with your data. But I know I'm being generic to the person that asked the question and not very helpful. But we could take that offline and give you some additional feedback. But there's a lot there, right? With prompt injections and validating prompts and cleaning prompts, et cetera. So sorry I'm not more helpful, but that's a long conversation.
And Deanna, I think you're going to share all of our contact information with all attendees too.
Yes.
So yeah, like Mark said, we're happy to take any question or an additional question you didn't ask offline at any point.
Perfect. And that's a great segue. So thank you. I did want to thank everybody for attending today's session. We have a couple minutes left. I'd also like to recognize that today is Juneteenth and express my gratitude to you all for attending today's session on this newly recognized holiday. And for all of our attendees, like Cohen said, we will be sending out follow-up information. So please check your emails. We'll have contact information, additional resources for you to use, and ways for you to get in touch with the different teams that are in attendance today. So thank you very much. And thank you, Chuck, Cohen, and Mark, for your time and conversation. This was super helpful and interesting.
Thanks, Deanna. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.